Hard to believe it has been 2 years now to the day since a pair of powerful earthquakes and many more aftershocks struck the Ridgecrest and Trona region of Kern County. The temblors left a lot of damage.
Ironically, a temblor hitting 3.6 on the Richter scale shook up northeastern Kern County just before 8 o'clock this evening. As we mark this anniversary 730 days later, 17's Eitan Wallace trekked out to the desert communities to see how they're doing.
2 years, 730 days, that's a long time. Well, those who call this city home tell me they've used that time to rebuild. The popcorn is popping, employees are working, and movies are playing at Ridgecrest cinemas. These sights, sounds, and trust me, smells are welcome news here. But just 2 years ago, this theater was in the news for a different reason. This whole region was.
Get down, Lane, get down.
On July 4th and 5th, 2019, Ridgecrest and surrounding communities were rocked by a series of powerful earthquakes, including a magnitude 6.4, and the next day, a 7.1.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
Part of a house fire started in a garage.
Felt as far away as LA, Vegas, Phoenix, and Sacramento, they were the strongest quakes to strike California in 20 years. Remarkably, no one died in Ridgecrest, and there were no major injuries, but one death was reported in Nevada. Each quake caused widespread damage in Ridgecrest, population about 30,000 on the far eastern edge of Kern County. The Ridgecrest cinemas were especially hit hard. The roof inside Theater Number 1 completely caved in, forcing the establishment to shut down for 3 weeks.
This is Theater 1.
Ridgecrest Cinema's general manager, WALDEN, showed us what the room looks like 2 years later.
This wall just moved so much that it caused this side to fall down.
Today, the room has no lights and sits empty. The wall where a screen once displayed movies, now covered in wood. A double whammy, the theater had to shut down for 15 months during the pandemic.
April 9th, I believe, was our first day back, and it's an uphill battle every day.
The good news, nearly all the 8 theaters at Ridgecrest Cinemas are back open. And as for Theater Number 1?
The future is we're going to have another theater in here one day.
While she rebuilds, some parts of the city have not. You may remember this mobile home on West Ward Avenue was knocked off of its foundation. 2 years later, it remains red tagged and still off of its foundation. The state is working to remove it. But there are other parts that have rebuilt. Some are small things, like this cinder block wall across from the mobile home on West Ward Avenue. In 2019, this is all that was left of some of the wall. These cinder blocks, I'm told, all came off. But now, the wall is back. And then there are some bigger things. $4 billion, for example, of government aid for repairs at nearby Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake. The base suffered billions in damage during the earthquakes, forcing thousands of people to relocate to these temporary units on the outskirts of Ridgecrest. But brick and mortar is not the only thing that's been repaired. One thing without a price tag: morale.
We are a great community, and you know what? Ridgecrest rocks! Thank you.
Peggy Breeden was mayor when the earthquake struck. Her reflections 2 years after this now famous emergency town hall speech.
Ridgecrest still rocks. I can remember saying, Ridgecrest rocks. And when I said it, I saw the people's eyes light up, and we saw that it was us. It was us working to find solutions for our community, and we did.
Solutions that are both measurable and immeasurable.
I remember a lot of it clearly.
One solution, according to Police Chief Jed McLaughlin, the quakes reminded people to expect the unexpected.
Should we have another one? Hope not. We'll be even that much more prepared.
Current Mayor BRUEN elaborated on more measurable solutions and successes the city has seen in the wake of the earthquakes.
We'll have 4 new eateries within 6 months. We'll have a new hotel within 6 months. This is all being driven by the incredible opportunities of regrowth that's coming from the quake. And nobody wants to apply that an earthquake's a good thing, because obviously it can be a tragic loss of life and damage, but in our case, it was a huge opportunity for our community to come out of it with a strong future.
But here in Trona, it's a different story. Just take this former Shell gas station, for example. Much of the ground was damaged in the earthquake. The owner boarded up these gas pumps and the food mart and closed down the entire station. And that's not all for this Searles Valley, San Bernardino County town, about 25 miles east of Ridgecrest. Trona's only large grocery store, Family Dollar, also boarded up and closed after the earthquake. A large for lease sign is printed above the store's entrance. Throughout this town of just under 2,000 people, large cracks in the sidewalks are still visible. Then there is Trona High School, the home of the tornadoes. The school had so much damage during the earthquakes that it was deemed unsafe for its students, who now have to take classes at the elementary school. Do you feel Trona has been forgotten?
Well, Trona being a small town, we're used to it. But we take care of ourselves.
Kathy HESEMAN has lived in Trona since 1965. She is the vice president of the Searles Valley Historical Society and serves on the Trona Joint Unified School District Board of Trustees.
It would cost $55 million to fix the high school to meet the current codes. We can't do that. We will never get the high school back. I know we're a small school district, but those kids still needed their school. So what we're looking at now is having to rebuild.
Has the federal government done enough to help Trona?
No. It's an unqualified no to that.
Congressman Jay Obernolte represents Trona. Elected to Congress after the earthquakes, Obernolte previously served in the state legislature. He says the main problem is with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA. Specifically, he says FEMA's formula that ultimately determines who gets federal aid and how much actually makes it extremely difficult for rural communities like Trona to receive any aid after a major disaster.
The criterion by which FEMA decides compared to the cost of the disaster. If you have a large state like California with many residents, we've got about 40 million, and a small community like Trona, that means that you could knock the entire community flat and probably not have enough economic damage to qualify for FEMA assistance. That is just patently ridiculous.
He hopes to introduce legislation to change that, but in the meantime, he sent this letter to Governor Gavin Newsom, urging Newsom to make sure some of the pandemic relief funding sent to California from the feds makes it to Trona.
They desperately need this relief funding, and what I'm pointing out to the governor is that the federal government just wrote the state of California essentially a $42 billion check. Right, billion with a B. That's a result of the stimulus legislation that was passed earlier this year in Congress. So surely some of that $42 billion can be spared to help a small community like Trona make sure that their school district continues to be solvent.
It's been rough, but we've had a lot of positive things happening too.
Those positives, she says, include the rebuilding of some parts of town. Improvements also have been made to the old guest house museum, and it now seems San Bernardino County has started to take care of dilapidated houses that were abandoned years before the earthquake even happened. But most significant, says HESEMAN, through it all, the people of Trona have kept positive.
The earthquake is a thing of the past, and finally, hopefully, COVID is a thing of the past. And so people are starting to get a much more positive outlook now. We still remind each other that we can get things done and take care of each other and take care of ourselves. Absolutely, Trona strong.
Looking back, some 730 days later, East Kern continues to suffer some of the consequences of the earthquakes. But clearly, as you've seen, the spirit of the desert endures. In Ridgecrest, Eitan Wallace, 17 News.
And we should point out here that right after the earthquakes, Trona did receive aid from local sources, including the state's Small Business Administration, but it was not nearly enough for repairs to the high school. Nevertheless, the folks in Trona and Ridgecrest accentuating the positive.
Yeah,
Indeed.
absolutely. Eitan joining us in studio now. What can you tell us about whether Trona, could they possibly get more aid in the future?
Well, and it's a good question. As we've saw in that report, Congressman Obernolte sent the letter to Governor Newsom asking for more aid, and Obernolte tells me that he has not yet received a response from the governor's office. So it's pending right now.
Yeah.
All right, and today's Aftershock, just another cruel reminder from Mother Earth, if you will, that this is a very active seismic zone.
Indeed it is. In fact, Jim and Tammy, there's been more than 1,000 aftershocks since those earthquakes 2 years ago. In fact, I think it's closer to 1,400.
Wow.
Even when I was there just last week recording this segment, there was a magnitude 3.2 that struck Searles Valley. So even though there were actually no significant, or no significant injuries or deaths, which is good news, we must remember though the psychological toll that this could take on the people there, and that's why I want to show you a full screen here which shows anyone who may need counseling or support can always call or text the Red Cross 24/7 Disaster Distress Helpline. That number, as you see on screen, 1-800-985-5990. Jim and Tammy.
All right. Thanks so much.
There.
Yeah, thank you, Eitan.
Thanks, Eitan.